Welcome to another episode of the Overrated Experience. I'm your host, Kyle Blondin. I'm jacked right now. This is an episode that's kicking off on a Friday morning, just after witnessing another round 3 of the group action of the World Cup. The World Cup's on fire right now when it comes to entertainment value, sports betting content, and I'm just pumped with what I just witnessed here. And what that was the two games that were going on currently right now: Uruguay versus Ghana, and then we had in the other game Portugal versus South Korea. And if you're not on board with the World Cup betting, then maybe sports betting is not for you. But anyway, before I get into that, welcome to the Overrated Experience Sports Betting Podcast. This is the sports betting podcast for squares. The regular bettor, the amateur bettor, the one bettor that enjoys a good game on TV to put some money on, and maybe it's only a small amount, but that's okay because we're not professionals anyway, so it doesn't matter. So that's the sports betting podcast you've joined. I'm your host. As I said, I'm just a square bettor like the rest of you out there, and looking to provide some insight to what maybe I am going to take my put some money down on some of the plays out there. And this is not professional by any means, and all for fun, but we're hoping to build a sports betting community out here. And part of that community is joining the Overrated Experience on Twitter. Overrated Experience. It's actually Overrated Exper, so Overrated EXPER2 at Overrated EXPER2. I should know that by now, but always get thrown by the Ep13, and that was the name that Twitter provided because they couldn't give the Overrated Experience full-length Twitter handle. Anyway, World Cup experience has been outstanding. Just let you know, currently the bets I just had coming off those two matches were I did take Portugal and I did take South Korea over a goal and a half, which was in the plus money. Now, the rationale to do that, which paid off, by the way, was that Portugal did have a starting lineup. They did have Ronaldo in the lineup. They did have a lineup which was surprisingly, because that was more of their starters in versus some of the other powerhouses that had already secured a round of 16 bye. So there was something in there. It almost feels like they're trying to feed Ronaldo the ball, get him goals. And I don't know if that is necessarily for the bigger picture of Portugal that you have these guys in the lineup, but they did. So it's very important, especially in the Johnny Charts would tell you, going into these games, the lineup is key to kind of have an idea where you want to place your money. So I looked at Ronaldo in the lineup. I looked at South Korea's desperation because they needed a result, which they got, and they were going to press forward. So that game was 1-1 after the first half. So I figured, this is a no-brainer. Now, it wasn't until extra time where things went haywire. The South Korea-Portugal game was 8 minutes ahead of the Ghana-Uruguay game. So what had occurred was Uruguay, which was my other bet, by the way. So I had a same game parlay with Uruguay and Ghana. So in that game, I had the game over a goal and a half, at least minimum 6 shots on target. And for those who are new to the game of soccer, or at least wagering, it's a shot that actually has to make it to the net so that the goalkeeper either tips it or it's on goal. And it actually has to be decided that if, obviously, nobody got in the way of that, it would have went in the net. So if a defender deflects it, that does not count. It's usually the goalkeeper or a goal. So if there's a penalty kick and there's a shot on net, that also counts. So it's great. So I had the same game parlay where the Uruguay game in Ghana over a goal and a half, over 6 shots on target, which that skyrocketed over, and then also 6.5 corners, which I had to sweat out a little bit because that corner did not come until extra time. But the exciting part here was that South Korea was behind in points, and Uruguay was coasting with a 2-0 lead over Ghana. They were advancing. They were going forward until South Korea scored in I think the second or third minute of extra time of the 6 minutes that was allotted to that game, putting South Korea ahead. And then it just puts massive pressure on the game because obviously Uruguay knows that, we're not moving on. Although they were tied in points, what had occurred was that the goal differential was even, but South Korea had more goals for. So Uruguay had to press. And that just changes the dynamic of everything. A team that's up 2-0 that has to press, and that pressing got me my corners because they had to move forward. Obviously, if you needed like a higher rate at shots on target, that development in that other game affected this game because Uruguay was throwing everything in the kitchen sink on it to get that third goal, which they could not do. So exciting betting action. I won both bets on it. Excited about that. But just a few comments on some of the World Cup action because it's going to be the main story. This is the main story. The World Cup is the main story, and I feel sorry for those out there that. And I've heard these comments. Oh, I've tried to watch, but it's boring. They're like every other sport. There's games that are boring. There are games that are exciting. But there are sometimes when you watch a game, if you know what you're looking for, you can find entertainment in things that are not necessarily the goals in the game or necessarily the shots. And that's where a bit of, the sports wagering comes in, because especially for European football or soccer, whatever name you want to give it, you have the opportunities to bet on, yellow cards and keep an eye out on that. Shots on target. Corner kicks, if you really want to get granular, you can get into, is there a card going to be shown in the 30th minute, 45th minute, who's going to score any time? And there's a whole bunch of stuff that you can make the game more entertaining. And maybe shame on the betting services. I don't know, maybe shame on the betting services or shame on FIFA, because these are events that, obviously the World Cup of Soccer is the biggest sporting event for humankind. Like it's the biggest. There's no question on it. But these groups like to make money, so there's always opportunities for growth. And I don't know if these whether it be FIFA, whether it be the sports gambling folks, are taking advantage of trying to come up with a way to allow the non-folks that may bring money out of their pocket, especially leading into a North America World Cup 4 years from now, educating so that somebody could sit in front of their TV and watch and understand what's going on. I think there's opportunities missed there. Sorry, I'm going all over the road here because I'm excited about what I just witnessed in the World Cup. Circling back to the World Cup, some thoughts. So far, as you noted, I'm looking to get another special World Cup knockout stage overrated experience, if hoping to have that happen. It's not guaranteed, but hoping to get Johnny Charts back here to discuss the breakdown as we get to the knockout stage. We'll see if we can do that or not, but if we do, great. If we don't, some of my thoughts on the World Cup so far. Betting-wise, I found obviously first half overs have been horrible. So a lot of the scoring has taken place in the second half. So if you bet a same game parlay where a goal in the first half was a part of your same game parlay, you've probably gotten screwed many times. Also, goals. I mean, there have been games where there's been an explosion of goals, but there's been a high rate of 0-0 draws. Now, the benefit of being on Bet365 is I can't recall the exact details, but there is opportunity to get back your money on a board draw, such as a 0-0 draw. That's not available in every sportsbook. I know FanDuel it's not. So that's something to keep an eye out for. And but the same game parlays for me, I have found have been my best opportunity to win. The same game parlay, the minus 200 and change for the juice when it comes to a goal and a half, I felt it's been reasonable to tack on, that bet with corners. Or I think, again, you don't see the value, at least I don't perceive it during, the domestic league soccer action, in tying in a goal and a half at minus 200, maybe 3.5 cards, because cards are a little, easier here to be handed out for most games, and there's value there. And I've seen the value, and I've gotten paid off because of that value. So just something to keep in mind going into the knockout stage, not necessarily the goals or who advances, but the cards situation. What is the scenario that, the team is in? Do they care? Is it going to be a chippy game? So look for cards as being something that something may be of value to you going forward. But especially going forward, what I learned here was I think this tournament is going to change the way tournament football for the powerhouses is going to is going to happen going forward. And I'd be interested when we get to the Euros, before we get to the next World Cup, as some of these powerhouses rethink some of the ways or some of the early matches that they've been involved in. Let's use Germany as an example. Germany lost 2-1 to Japan in day one of the tournament, while Spain on the other side of that group blew out Costa Rica 7-0. You have two of the two favorites in the group, Germany, Spain. One that understood in Spain that let me take advantage of a weaker opponent and smash them without them getting off the floor with any hope whatsoever to get back into this game. So right off the bat, Spain, 7-0, basically crushed Costa Rica. Just crushed. Put themselves in the driver's seat so that there was fewer outs that Spain would risk being knocked out of this tournament before the knockout stage. And later on, you could see that Spain obviously lost their third game against Japan, which forced them into second. But but they put themselves in a safer scenario and fewer outs to get eliminated. And if Spain is a powerhouse, obviously they'd be hell breaking loose if they didn't advance in the World Cup. Germany, on the other hand, who also faltered out of the previous World Cup in the group stage and really had a flat performance, in my opinion, in the Euros and got knocked out by England, was just the same old story. If you watch that first game against Japan, which I did, and I had the over in that game, which was great because it ended 2-1, they allowed Japan to hang in that game. Germany owned the first half. And you had your stars, Gnabry, Havertz, and they're not hitting the target. They're not putting balls where they can score goals. They should have crushed Japan in game one to avoid the desperation and relying of other teams to secure a knockout stage place, which did not happen. Germany failed, and they were one of a few other teams. Let's look at Mexico. Mexico, just, you know what? If you watched Mexico's journey, they were hard. Their highlight in their first game in their draw against Poland was a penalty save. It was a big one on Lewandowski, but the highlight of that game from Mexico was they were able to pull out a draw, not score any goals, but pull out a draw, and that's just flawed thinking. And let's go now and then you witnessed game 3 for Mexico, and suddenly against Saudi Arabia, they were they were like really pushing forward, knowing that they needed goals in the second half, and they were playing some entertaining, outstanding football, but it didn't matter. It did not matter because they could not score enough goals. They put themselves in a situation where they were, again, relied on that third game. The other team's results was dictating what had occurred, but they failed. And I got to believe that Mexico's got to take a look at themselves and what kind of brand of football they're bringing to the table, because it's horrible. And they got to bring some skill, and these teams need to smash the 3-4 teams in the group. I'm speaking of the higher teams. They need to smash the teams that should be just grasping or happy to be at the tournament without giving them any hope. You need to secure the 3 points right off the bat. This is ridiculous and unacceptable for these squads. But what I can tell you, especially, look at Uruguay. They didn't score a goal until today. 2 games up until now, until their game against Ghana, when they knew they had to score goals. They waited till game 3 to put the pressure on and actually look at finding the back of the net. That's unacceptable. Uruguay is a decent, they're not up to the Spains and the Englands and the Germanys of the world, but they're a respected football nation. And I don't know what the strategy was to come in to ensure they didn't lose points versus actually going out there and getting the points. So they couldn't beat South Korea. They couldn't put any goals on the board. So bye-bye, Uruguay. If you're just going to simply have Suarez and Cavani just interchange with each other as your goal-scoring threats, Nunez, who plays for Liverpool, did absolutely nothing. And you know what? And you see that with Liverpool, that Nunez is potentially the go-to guy, besides Salah. But Mane, who went to Bayern Munich, you can tell that Liverpool struggles, and he's just not up to it. So I got to expect that the betting opportunities going into these other tournaments, whether a couple years from now, it might be worthwhile to keep that in mind, that the top tier teams may hit the gas, put their offensive lineup in right off the bat, and start doing what Spain did and go up 7-0 on a Costa Rica weak side to ensure that they dictate what happens going into the second and third games of the groups. So watch out for that. Obviously, it's a long-term thinking, but absolutely amazing, because the opportunities in group football, and you have to kind of keep this in mind. And I want you to keep it in mind, especially when we go to Champions League, because this tournament's going to be too late, because the group stage is now over after the 2 o'clock games that are going to come up today. And that is the motivation of teams. What does a team need to do to keep their season going, keep their tournament alive, etc.? So for today's games, as an example, we just talked about Uruguay. They needed to score goals. So coming into the game that they have to win. They have to get the 3 points. They cannot eke out a draw. So regardless of if it's 1-1, 0-0, on the 85th minute, they have to press. And going into betting, you have to look at, does that mean that I should expect at least an over 2.5 goals? What's the motivation? When I'm live betting, if Uruguay gets down like a goal to Ghana, does that mean they're going to just press? They're going to bring both Suarez and Cavani on? Who knows? You don't know. You have to think of the motivation of the team. And South Korea, they were 1-1 with Portugal, and if that was game one of the tournament, they would have held on for that point. But they needed to score a goal because they needed the 3 points to ensure that they had a shot at advancing, which eventually they did. And that motivated me, because of that South Korean desperation, to put some funds on the over 2.5, which paid off. Did I sweat it out? You're damn right I did. But the right play was to do it because of the motivation of the team changed in the third match. So it's very important to look at, why is that team here? What do they got to play for? Like cards. You think that Ghana cares, down 2-0, that they slide tackle somebody? No, because it's their last game of the tournament. They've decided, okay, we're down 2-0. We're not getting back in this game. They don't give a damn. Right? They'll give up that cheap yellow card. So look at those things. You got to, I think there's real value in tournament football like this. So the World Cup has been friggin' amazing. Again, despite some of the 0-0 draws, the drama on the third day of third group games, with the games happening at the same time, just like I spoke about today, has been electrifying and a bettor's dream. A bettor's dream. This is the square dream where you're watching, flipping back and forth, seeing what's going on. Everything's going haywire, and the drama, people crying in the stands, Uruguay, Suarez for Uruguay, crying on the bench, really I don't care, but amazing, and betting opportunities, betting galore, you gotta love it. So that's my take right now on what we just seen in the group stage, and going forward now, which is a different brand of football. We're talking about the knockout stage now, the round of 16. And this is where legends are made. So there's we got to look at the motivations of each team. So the round of 16, which still has to fill out the last few brackets based on the 2 o'clock games here on Friday. But some of the games we do know of. And Saturday we have our first matchup, and that's the Netherlands division group winner taking on the United States of America, USA, all the way. I just said that. Interesting matchup, to be very honest with you. If these matchups were all lined up to take place at the same time, this Netherlands-USA matchup would probably not be one of my games I'd bet on. But hey, this is a square betting podcast. Since it's the only game on at 10 a.m. tomorrow, I'm going to be the one betting it, of course. I got to put something on it, just like you will. And right now, the Netherlands are heavy favorites, minus 245 to advance. Now, here's the thing, something you need to really keep an eye out for some of you new bettors out there. That traditionally, there is three-way betting in soccer. So you bet on the home team, the away team, or the draw within that 90 minutes. You can still do that here, but be aware of an additional bet called team to advance or team to qualify. because that's different. It's going to include, let's say the Netherlands advances, but they can advance whether it be in the 90 minutes, extra time, or through penalty kicks. So no matter how they advance, that if you take that bet, that's the outcome you're looking for. If you do the traditional money line, three-way betting, like you would have during the group stage, the draw is still applicable because let's assume that you did take, let's say you took the USA, and just use USA. And the USA and Netherlands were 1-1, and they went into extra time. USA wins in penalty kicks. But you pick the USA in the 90 minutes, you lose. Because the three-way betting is still only applicable to the 90 minutes of play. And even though that in the knockout stage, you do have extra time and you have penalty kicks, if you've selected that bet like you would have during the group stage, you will live with the result that happens within the 90 minutes. And it is not applicable for the extra time or the penalty kicks. So keep that in mind as a new option, and don't confuse the two on what you are really trying to accomplish, okay? So, interesting note here. I got to feel that the Netherlands and USA is going to be like a chess match. These are two teams that I'm not going to say not impressed with, but I just didn't feel that they were must-watch TV. And when you look at, like I said, the Netherlands is minus 245 to advance, but is there not value on the U.S. at plus 196 to advance? Why can't the U.S. knock off Netherlands? The Netherlands is back in the World Cup after an absence. They haven't really impressed me. Have they really impressed you? They haven't done anything to warrant not looking at the U.S. at plus 196. USA is a sneaky team. They're a good athletic team. I don't know if Pulisic, their Chelsea player, is going to be playing after the injury. Sounds like he is. Why can't they pull this out? It's not like it's Spain or Brazil against the United States. It's the Netherlands who have not looked dominant in any fashion. I picture this to be either a scoreless draw or a 1-1 going into extra time. To be honest, I just don't see a blowout one way or another. But right now I don't know if the same game parlay. I haven't decided what to attach it with, but I would stick with the 1.5 goals at minus 240, and probably that's what I checked out on FanDuel. The corners were not available yet for same game betting, but I'd probably tie the 1.5 goals at minus 240 with either. I was kind of looking at the over 3.5 yellow cards, but I kind of stayed away with that, and I'll probably wait till closer to kickoff to look at maybe 7.5 corners, and usually the corners at 7.5 is a plus, a minus 200 and change, or a minus 300. Which if you put a few dollars down in those two, that double combination, you're going to get some decent return, and I think it's most likely to happen. Interesting matchup there. We'll see what happens, and just note. With the World Cup happening in North America 4 years from now, U.S., Canada, and Mexico hosting not 32 teams, but absolutely it's up to 48 teams. The U.S. program is going to get nothing but stronger. Right now, the USA soccer program is very solid. And it hasn't taken leaps and bounds on the international stage that you would think at this point, since they've originally hosted the World Cup, I think in '96, and since the introduction of MLS. But I got to believe they're at a stage where we're going to see an acceleration of actual top talent eventually start coming out of the U.S. versus solid talent you see today. They just have the facilities, they have the population, and eventually they will take on the best in the world. Just not yet, but it's coming. So just note that down. Also Saturday, you know what? I think I gotta think Argentina is probably many fan favorite out there, and looking for. Maybe it's not Argentina. It's more about Messi. Messi going on a run, getting to that World Cup, getting that validation of holding up the trophy. I don't know if that's going to happen, but I think the second game Saturday is pretty intriguing. Australia, Argentina. Argentina is obviously a heavy favorite at minus 1,800, so to advance. Well, if you really have some balls, you think Australia's got a shot, 1140 plus 1140 to advance, then you got stones. If you put $10 on it as a square better, why not? If you want to put $1,000 on it, you're my hero. Good luck, because I'm not doing that. But what I found interesting here is some of the lines, including minus 124 on the over 2.5. Now I envision something similar to the first game Australia played against France, where they opened the scoring. Are you really shocked if you've seen Argentina really give up the first goal? Like Australia comes out hot, and they give up the first goal, and Argentina's fighting back. I think Argentina's in a good spot right now, where I at least see 2 goals. So I like the over 2.5 in this game. And again, they're going to play desperate if they're down, because they have nothing else to play for. There's no tomorrow on, let's say, from Australia, and they can probably get a cheap goal, even if they don't get that quick goal like they did against France. Both teams to score, plus 200. Again, if I think Australia is going to score, I know Argentina is going to score at least. That plus 200 looks pretty darn good. And if you like, you might even use the same game parlay and throw in the over 7.5 corners at minus 250 and get a decent payout. So the same game parlay was not available, by the way, but at this time, but it should be available closer to kickoff tomorrow. Argentina probably advances, but those are the bets I like in that game. Sunday, football Sunday, but this is now European / South American / World Football Sunday as well. And this is where you get France, defending World Cup champions, minus 1,200 to advance against Senegal, Poland, who snuck in by just losing, but goal differential for Poland, who's plus 760 to advance. I don't see Poland moving forward here. I haven't seen anything that stands out to me to say, wow, there's a glimmer of hope. They rely way too much on Lewandowski, who's one of the best goal scorers in the world, but I think every team is going to cut them off. Like, it's almost like cutting off a supply chain and unable to feed him the ball, and I just don't think Poland has really much else. However, when you look at the value plays in this, the over 2.5, and I like it at minus 116, and I can see France winning 3-0, 4-0. They're trying to feed Mbappe, trying to add. He's probably the most he's the scariest player in this tournament right now. He one-on-one. He's a goal scorer. He's a goal scoring machine, and I could see him scoring 2 to 3 goals in this game just to light it up and get that golden boot. So why wouldn't the 2.5 be a good play here at minus 116? Great opportunity. And look at the plus 100 from Mbappe to be the goal scorer. You tell me he's not going like just to shine in this. He's in the prime of his life. He's if you watch the games, he is hungry to score. Give me the ball. I'm going to put it in the back of the net. Plus 100, I think, is a great value play. Now, this is more of like a keep an eye out for this. Like, and it may be worth putting a few dollars down. Now, Robert Lewandowski is a plus 400 to score a goal. I mean, I don't know if Poland's going to score or not. But if there's going to be somebody who scores or gets the opportunity, it's going to be him. If there's a penalty kick that Poland earns, guess who's going to take it? It's going to be him. And a plus 400, on Robert Lewandowski, there's a shot that there's value there. So keep an eye out for that. If it interests you, sprinkle some dough on that. Now going on to the other Sunday game, the big, England, one of the powerhouses here, one of the powerhouses that continuously fails at some point during the knockout stage during the World Cup, or fails after leading 1-0 against Italy in the Euros, comes in as a minus 550 to advance ahead of Senegal, who's a plus 370 to advance. Senegal is a solid team, even without Mane. That Senegal can put up some goals, and they're a scary opponent. And I don't think an easy walkthrough if England does not, put the foot on the throat early. So the value plays I like here. I'm looking at a same game parlay, and you got the over goal and a half minus 240. You have 1 goal in the first half, which again, I've been burned already by putting that over 0.5 goals in the first half. But what the hell? Let's do it. And England to advance. So you got plus money if you think England's going to advance, which the odds are they will. You tell me that they can't squeeze out. Like, if they're on fire, they can score quick and early and get those 2 goals out of the way already. So I think there's value here, and I think I'm going to put some money on that same game parlay. That's a goal and a half in the match, over a goal in the first half, and England to advance, which will get you in the plus money. I think there's real value here. And another one of those value plays, if you think, I think there's worth taking a little dough on it, and that is for Harry Kane, plus 550 to score 2 or more goals. Who's the guy going to take penalty kicks? Harry Kane. Who are they going to feed the ball to? Harry Kane. Why, Harry Kane with Tottenham? He scores 2, 3. He's a goal scoring machine, and most likely he's going to start getting on the board in a big way during the knockout stage. He wants the ball, he wants to shine, and obviously his brand, the Harry Kane brand, because it's going to happen when he eventually leaves Tottenham, he wants to actually shine in front of the world. So that's a great 550 for Harry Kane, 2 or more goals. Why not? That's a play. Monday. Some of the action going on here. Japan taking on Croatia. Now, Croatia is at minus 184 favorite to advance. Japan is a plus 150 to advance. Japan's a wild card. It's like this matchup is very intriguing because I think Japan beat Spain and Germany but lose to Costa Rica. How's that possible? Like if you had to map out, Japan winning 2 games in the group and you thought that the game they're going to lose against Costa Rica, it makes no sense. Like it doesn't make sense. This team is way up, way down. This team is a momentum team. But I think Croatia is showing that, all right, calm down everybody. We're going to take over and use our experience. We're going to take control of the ball. We'll probably lean on you, after scoring a goal. They really took care of Canada because Canada pissed them off. So they have the potential to really light up the team. Teams are playing. They're the old guys in the tournament. They're coming off a World Cup final, but why can't they make a few runs here in the knockout stage? So I like Croatia to advance, but from the betting perspective, you look at maybe adding. This is a tough one. I would probably put a parlay on Croatia advancing with one of the other bets that I mentioned, such as, I don't know, later. I really think if Croatia is going to advance, but I don't feel good about many of the other plays in here. But I do feel that there's something worth to keep an eye out when it comes to live betting is if Japan sparks the game by getting that opening goal, I think that changes everything. That changes Croatia's outlook, and they drop everything and press forward. And honestly, if Japan scores in the first 20 minutes, all hell's breaking loose in this game. This will be a wild game. And as soon as Japan scores, if that happens, pump at least the over 3.5. I don't know what it will look like after the goal, but if Japan scores the early goal, watch out. It's going to be 4 goals minimal in that game. So keep an eye on the live betting on that one. The last confirmed matchup is Morocco taking on Spain. This is on Tuesday. Now, how would you like to be Morocco? You come out of your, you knock off, you get ahead of Belgium. Croatia moved on, but Morocco won the group, and Morocco has had a great group stage, and you have to play Spain. I mean, you're a group winner, and Spain is your opponent. Like, that's what's the where's the payoff here? Where's the payoff of being the division winner? Because Spain is obviously going to be the favorite here, and they are at a minus 430 to advance. Morocco being a plus 310. Morocco is pesky. They are playing great as a group. They are dangerous, but they are now playing Spain. Spain got brought back to earth a little bit against Japan. I don't see Spain losing here. I think Spain controls play. They go 1, 2. I think they take no chances. They smash Morocco at least early. I think that's got to be the plan. I don't think holding on to a 1-0 lead is the right play here. So I think Spain will press forward. So I do like the over 2.5 here at plus 126. Again, you have Spain. I feel will score. I feel they'll go for a second goal. And then obviously Morocco, at any point, desperate, will have to press forward, providing Spain an opportunity to get a third. Or what if Morocco scores that first goal? Then they're going to be sitting back, and Spain's going to be all over them. And why can't they? They pumped 7 against Costa Rica. I know Morocco's a better team than Costa Rica, but why can't Spain put 3 in themselves, or Morocco put 1 on the board? So it's just an interesting game to look at there, and I think there's value there. But wow, Morocco, you just got screwed. Now that's how the chips fall in a tournament football. Now later this afternoon, we have Brazil taking on, damn it, they're taking on Cameroon, I think. Whatever. Like I'm just saying, the later games will show us what the final knockout stage is, and I hope to have, again, more of an insight with Johnny Charts. Yeah, Cameroon, Brazil, Serbia, Switzerland. This is an interesting final group. Now, here's what I'm talking about. If I can get this podcast out in time before 2 o'clock, which I doubt it, but you look at how the group sits right now, and this is what exactly I'm talking about. Brazil, already 6 points. They've already secured their place into the second round. Now, the lineup that they're going to put in, they're not like, well, yeah, they got Martinelli and Jesus for Brazil, two Arsenal guys that do score goals. I mean, the Brazil, they're so deep, they're going to put a team out there that has a potential to score. And you know what? Jesus has been fantastic with Arsenal, and Martinelli has been great, and I can't see them not wanting to light it up today against Cameroon. But when you look at the standings, Brazil's already through. I mean, they have a minimal threat because they have a +3, goal differential. Minimal. I'm talking about minimal, like slight threat. That's Switzerland at 3 points, who sits in the second position, that has even goal differential, would win their game outright, and then, get ahead of Brazil based on goal differential. The odds are astronomical that Switzerland would do that because at the end of the day, Switzerland plays Serbia, and you got to think that Switzerland is going to keep an eye on the Brazil matchup because Switzerland with a draw, if Brazil beats Cameroon or Cameroon and Brazil draw, they advance. So it's funny how Switzerland, man, this is where the guys in the chalkboard or the whiteboard in the dressing beforehand talking about strategy are key. What do you do here? If you're Switzerland, do you press hardcore right off the bat to get those 3 points? Because Serbia needs those 3 points, and Serbia is going to press. So do you wait for Serbia to press and you counterattack to hopefully get a draw and then react if somehow Cameroon takes the lead on Brazil and is holding the advantage there? Because if Cameroon is... If you ever watch soccer totals, by the way, and you look at the sites, and I use Flash Score to kind of look at a lot of information relates to soccer across the world. So I'm looking at Group G right now, and what's good about soccer is when the results are happening during the game, the standings are live standings. So, for example, I said Brazil had 6 points, Switzerland had 3 points, Cameroon has 1, and Serbia has 1. If Cameroon took the lead on Brazil, and let's say Switzerland and Serbia were knotted at nothing, Cameroon would show, if you're watching the standings, at 4 points and be ahead of Switzerland. That would be at 4 points. Well, I guess they'd be even depending on goal differential. Actually, Cameroon would be ahead because they scored more goals. It would be live where Cameroon would be ahead. And, vice versa, if Serbia scores or Brazil scores, the live standings would show where things would stand if the results finished that way right at that point, which is also exciting. So what does Switzerland do? Do they press, go for it, control their own destiny? Because they win, they're in. There's nobody catching them. But because Cameroon and Serbia have to chase. So interesting because I just talked about Germany, Mexico, Uruguay, and some of the other teams that did not control their own destiny because they played piss poor and they did not take control of the situation. Instead of relying on being safe and my coach doesn't want to lose my job because you made a mistake, that is the worst way of playing football, and the writing's right on the wall that does not work and you risk too much. So Switzerland, it's on you. That'd be interesting. So when I'm going into Switzerland, Serbia, you got to remember, like, Serbia's going to be pressing. It's wild. I don't even know what to bet right now. I gotta wait till 2 o'clock. But remember, the motivations are the tournament is over for Cameroon and Serbia unless they get a winning result. There is no draws. There is no 1-1s, 0-0s. There's no playing for a draw. They need to press. So think of that in your betting and see how that plays out, because I most likely, based on the other groups, the last 15 minutes of the second half, as both these games are going on, are going to radically change your live in-play betting, and just keep the motivations in mind. So we'll look forward to that coming up this afternoon. All right. So that's the World Cup insight that I had. And again, you may hear some of these picks if I'm able to get another special World Cup edition of the Overrated Experience out there with Janny Charts, if I can get him to join us. But we'll go from there if that is able to take place. So normally we talk about sports gambling news at the start of the podcast, but the World Cup is king right now, or queen, whatever you want, whatever the head of the table is. So that needed to be up front. But big news if you're living in the Ontario region, okay? And I'm just going to give credit to a couple of sites that I'm going to kind of jump back and forth with. So please bear with me as I talk about this. And if you haven't heard about this, okay? So you have covers.com. That's my main reference here, talking about the story related to the UFC and the government of Ontario, which is an article written by Jeff Zokadin. I've referenced him before, and I'm probably butchering his name, but if you like a good follow to learn about local or broad gambling related news, I referenced Jeff's piece about kiosks showing up at Caesars in the Windsor Casino. Some of these things I'm interested in about how things are developing on the sports betting world and in the relationship with the government and regulation. So he's a good follow, and he works for covers.com, and his article is one of many out there, talks about the Ontario government ruling. So the Ontario government has demanded that all their regulated sports books in Ontario remove immediately UFC betting action. I'll let that settle for a second if you haven't heard about it. Many of you out there are not betting football, not betting basketball, not betting soccer. You guys love MMA, and I understand why. There's tons of stuff to bet on MMA, especially UFC, during a fight night, a Saturday night, or whether it be a pay-per-view or a UFC fight night, whatever event is going on for UFC. There's a lot of value in entertainment because of the card so long. You can bet everywhere on the card, knockouts, etc., rounds that the fight will finish in. Well, guess what? If you're in Ontario right now and you're on one of the regulated books, as of right now, this second, you cannot find a bet on one of those sites. And why can't you find one of those bets on one of those sites? Well, the Ontario government, and what is it? ARCO, which you should be familiar with, Alcohol and Gaming Commission of Ontario. And I'll quote this from the article, said on Thursday, that it is requiring licensed retail and online sports betting sites to stop taking bets immediately on the mixed martial arts events due to wagering integrity and concerns. What does that mean? Well, a few months back, there was a fight that I'm going to reference MMA Junkie. I heard about this fight. I really didn't think about it too much, but and I really didn't follow along as closely maybe as I should have. But MMA Junkie, I'm just referencing here, is that one of the triggers to most likely this ruling was a featherweight bout on UFC Fight Night 214 between Derek Minor and this is going to be a tough Shea Nuremberg, where this fight ended in the first round, a TKO in the first round. Now, the issue here was that there was a large amount in multiple states in the U.S. where money was coming on Nuremberg to win first round TKO, and the numbers and the amounts bet on the exact finish of the fight led to questions on, hey, what's going on here? Like, is somebody know something? So this was one of the things flagged out of that fight. And my understanding is that the UFC have banned the coach, James Krause, from any other fighters to represent in the octagon until I guess their investigation's over. And my understanding, I'm still unclear of this investigation because it looks like the UFC uses Don Best to kind of look at any betting irregularities on the UFC. And my understanding, again, is that they have come back, that they haven't found any issues or any sign that there's been any fixing in place or anything foul to occur. But the Nevada Athletic Commission, as an MMA Junkie I'm reading here, said last month that an investigation is ongoing and is expected to be on the body's December 14th meeting agenda. There's a lot of things going on here. So I don't know what's also what what I'm to understand is that we have the UFC stating and that they have done something in relation to trying to support irregularities on betting. And I'm like looking at Yahoo Sports, and what the issue at a crux here is the ability or the lack of restriction or mandate to restrict coaches or anybody close, people that have inside knowledge that you and I do not have, to restrict them from betting on the UFC. And that not being in place is the crux, or at least that is what is explained by ARCO, to provide their ruling that they're banning the betting until they feel comfortable that the UFC has put into place policies and procedures that eliminate that potential integrity issue. When I read the article on covers.com and in the announcement by ARCO as well, I'm just going to read a little bit more here. In recent weeks, ARCO has learned of publicized alleged incidents with an S, like plural, including possible betting by UFC insiders, as well as reports of suspicious betting patterns in other jurisdictions. So it's very odd. So is it just referencing that one fight, or did that one fight open the door to look at, the commission or the ARCO looking at, hey, what's the story here? Why would there be any issue here? And then you suddenly open up and dig back the layers and find out that, the UFC doesn't have such a stringent policy on insider. Basically, it's insider trading. I mean, to my understanding, according to whether it be Yahoo Sports or Covers or MMA Junkie, the head coach, James Krause, has openly talked about betting on UFC, which I didn't even think of until this came up, and it's kind of alarming, and I'm kind of torn both ways here. So I don't know if I like a government entity being able to say, hey, 30 plus regulators, which I as an Ontarioan, I don't know if that's the right word, and I've lived here all my life, Ontarian, that I am restricted because you told me that I can't make the choice to make a wager on this event. I don't know if I like them having that blanket type power to restrict and demand that option is removed. So, for example, there's a UFC fight night tomorrow. I don't even have the ability to debate or take in the information that, it's almost like a travel advisory. Usually the government puts out a travel advisory saying, I recommend that you do not travel to place A, place B, and here are the reasons why. But at least that allows me to make the choice to jump on a plane and go there, or think about an alternative destination. This basically tells me that too bad, so sad. You don't have a choice. We know what's best for you, and you're not going to bet the UFC until we feel satisfied that they've done all their due diligence to make sure that their integrity is upheld. So that part I don't like at all, because usually in the sports betting world, and let's not kid ourselves, people, if you're out there thinking that every event is on the up and up, and usually when it comes to these scenarios where there's questions on events, it's not necessary. And again, I'm not no expert, and I'm sure there's other opinions out there. It's usually not the Super Bowls and the World Cups. Well, I don't know World Cups. You never know about soccer. It's not Lakers and Clippers and the big matchups. I mean, there's I know the caveat that there's a history of, yes, there's some scenarios like that, but for the majority, it is the betting lines that are messed with are those third tier fights. Like this one is not a main event fight. It's a mid-card fight on a fight night. You have tennis matchups that are lower seeded players. It's not Djokovic. It's not, Nadal. It's the lower seeded, matches where you wouldn't even think of, where I believe, whether it be people trying to fix a game are going to aim for. in several different. It's going to be third division soccer, fourth division soccer, where some irregularities could take place. That doesn't mean with all the betting options out there that there could not be anybody messing around with how many corners or yellow cards or free throws or, like how many threes you're going to make that night. Absolutely. We don't know everybody's motivation, and there's always nefarious folks out there trying to make a quick dollar while you, the hardworking bettor, is trying to look at all the stats and trying to figure it out. Just like the stock market. You think that somebody doesn't get a phone call when FTX, as an example, is about to fall, or has knowledge that, well, you better bet your money out now before all hell breaks loose, that stock's going to go down, and there's going to be the average Joe that's, his life savings or her life savings is just gutted because they were trying to play fair. And so I get it. I don't know if I like the government having that blanket ability to cut off the betting. And instead of maybe just warning or restricting or whatever it may be, because usually the sites that you're supposed to trust are supposed to also be watching and making those decisions not to take a bet, or maybe taking a fight off the board or an event off the board where they see regular betting or get inside information. So I'm a little iffy on that. However, from what I'm reading about the integrity of the UFC, is I don't know, because there's one article say that the UFC has implemented something, and obviously the ARCO folks and the Ontario government believe they haven't either implemented anything that would restrict a head coach, a trainer, a close friend, or like a close somebody connected to a fighter that from the ability to prevent making bets. And if the UFC has allowed this to happen, I mean, if they've taken action only weeks ago, that's a red flag to me. How is that possibly fair, or thought it was a good idea and you didn't get a handle on this, that somebody in the camp of the fighter has the ability to place wagers, and not have any penalties against them on the fighters that they are training? Are you insane? Imagine that the NFL allowed a medical therapist or the team doctor, not, maybe it's frowned upon, but not saying you can't do this. You know that Tom Brady has a broken thumb going into the game against New Orleans on Monday night. And I know, I'm going to go obviously take maybe the under in that game, because their game plan is going to be handing the ball off. You know what I mean? Like it makes no sense. So UFC, shame on you if what is being outlined here by the article from covers.com that the government has restricted betting in Ontario, shame on you that you haven't taken care of this by now. I mean, the UFC has been very proactive. They have, the UFC is synonymous for taking a sport from UFC 1, where the image of the sport of mixed martial arts was cage fighting and like just ugly and bloody, and now they've taken it into weight divisions. It's the new norm of women on women or man on man combat, and everybody knows the UFC. It's the brand that everybody trusts until you hear stuff like this. All right, and there's a reason why ESPN has UFC, because of the brand, the strong brand they've created. But if there's betting irregularities on this, man, you got to get that under control. And me, the betting public, you need to sell me that you've taken care of this, and this is just a hiccup in going forward on your events, and that I should feel no way to put money down on an event that I shouldn't feel that there's already a predetermined outcome. So lot to digest there and take it all in. So great. So that's the betting news of the week, and I wanted to get that in there. I think that was a huge story impacting us, the square bettors out there. So now we move on. And we move on to the world of the NFL. Okay, so we have the World Cup we went through, the NFL, going to have some plays on some NCAA football, some conference championships. And let's start out. I'm going to try to zip through this. I have a lot of thoughts on things, and I'll time it out so that if you're interested in World Cup, great, you can listen to that. Or if you're interested in the football aspect of it, you can listen to that. You choose. You're the customer, right? So from the NFL, Some interesting matchups. We have Cleveland going into Houston. Both teams not going to make the playoffs, but Deshaun Watson returning. Wonder where he was on his suspension and why. And ironically, he's playing the Houston Texans, the team he got traded from. How that works out, that sounds like they did that on purpose. Come on. But the Cleveland Browns are a -7 favorite. Now, give Cleveland some credit. I mean, they've been out of the picture for quite a while, but they battle each week. They knocked off Tampa Bay in overtime last week. And with Deshaun Watson back with this team, it'd be interesting to see what he does. He's obviously an elite quarterback, or he was. We don't know. He hasn't played like a snap in like a year and a half. But at -7, I think Houston's absolute trash. And I would include Cleveland as a teaser play here to be at -1. So that's the only play I'd make on this. I feel confident, even if Watson's not on his game. Like Nick Chubb and Hunt and the Cleveland defense will be enough to take out Houston, which is just in shambles. They're a write-off. They're going nowhere fast. So I like Cleveland -1 only on a teaser bet that I would include in other games. Denver and Baltimore. I mean, it's just unbelievable. Here's the motivation aspect here. Denver can't score points. Their defense is great. Their offense is absolutely horrendous. It's a matter of time before Nathaniel Hackett goes. Russell Wilson is going nowhere. The cap hit to release him would be detrimental. However, let's keep in mind that Russell Wilson does have a track record of success more than he doesn't. He looks horrible this year. Let's pretend this year didn't happen. We got to give him another year. Where's Denver going to go anyway? Denver's not going to have another backup plan. Are they going to be like the Colts and just sift through guys on their last legs over and over? No. Get rid of Nathaniel Hackett. I think, here's my thought. I'm going to put it out there right now. As I think with the Walmart ownership, with the money and the prestige of the Denver Broncos and now the big bucks, I think you go after Sean Payton, who's now working with Fox. You got to go after a coach that I think can really reel this in. Denver has the tools. There's no way Russell Wilson is this bad this fast. Like, everything is off. It's bizarro world. This is not even the same guy we know from Seattle. It's impossible. Bring in Sean Payton, who's bigger than the team, bring in that focal point. I think he'll bring the belief back. He'll put the right game plan in place. But for this particular game, Baltimore an 8.5 favorite, I would have no hesitation to take Baltimore at 8.5. Baltimore, who lost on a 2-point conversion by the Jacksonville Jaguars last week, I think they know they have to come out fast. They have to, establish a lead and grow the lead much earlier than they have, because they're letting games slip away in an embarrassing fashion. I think these teams meet at the wrong time when it comes to Denver scenario. Denver cannot score points, and I think Baltimore allows under 10, man, I'll give them credit. I'm going to say under 13 points for Denver, and Baltimore cruises away. 8.5 is worth it, but even more value is you bring it down to a 2.5 point teaser. Baltimore's going to win this at least by a field goal. Like, I like it at 8.5, so field goal is nothing I'm going to bat an eye at. Longest field goal, though, in this game, if you're on Bet365, it allows you to bet the longest field goal regardless of who hits it. And you got two kickers, McManus and Tucker, in this game, over 46.5. Why not? You got to picture there's going to be a situation at the end of a half. Broncos stall in their drive, and McManus comes in to put points on the board because they don't want to have that big donut, which they could have if the offense plays the way it has been for the entire year. So look at that as a good value pick as well. Longest field goal over 46.5. Jacksonville, Detroit. I don't know what to get out of this game. Jacksonville's a -1 favorite over the Detroit Lions. Lions have played well. I mean, but that game against Buffalo exposes some of the decision making, some of the mistakes, missed field goals. They're just, every time you got belief in the Detroit Lions, there's mistakes. They just have a loser mentality. So I wouldn't even touch this game, but what I do like in this game is both coaches are not afraid to go for two. We just talked about Jacksonville winning a football game against the Baltimore Ravens by going for two. And the 2 points is plus 270 here for a successful 2-point conversion. I think that's Doug Peterson, coach of the Jaguars. He goes for two all the time. Why is there no value there? So, and once they get on the bandwagon of going for two and they miss one, they try to make it up during the game much quicker. So I think there's real value there. New York Jets and Minnesota Vikings. I like the over in this game, 44.5. I think Mike White, quarterback in the Jets, is able to get the ball in the hands of the weapons that they require. I think Minnesota's defense is horrid. After watching the Patriots unable to move the ball successfully against the Bills last night, but yet the week previously slice and dice the Vikings D, whether it be on the ground or the air, I can't see why Mike White wouldn't have a successful day. And 44.5, why not? Minnesota's going to put up points. They're at home. Cousins, Jefferson puts up in big numbers. Dalvin Cook, Thielen, they got Hawkinson. There's no reason why this game shouldn't be a 20s, mid 20s, like, or 30 something, 20 something for one of these teams, most likely Minnesota. So 44.5, I like a lot at minus 110. I'm not going to pick every game here, so I'm just trying to pick the games that I have a thought on. So if you don't hear a game, I didn't have any thoughts on it. Tennessee takes on Philadelphia, which is an interesting matchup. Tennessee's a good team, but they're not Philadelphia. Philadelphia's on fire right now. Obviously, the loss against Washington a few weeks back was a blip, and you could argue that there was some controversial calls here, a missed face mask, things like that was really contributing to that Washington victory. I like Philadelphia at 4.5 here, so. I mean, just to keep it simple, I love the tease on this. Like you tease the 6 points, and then suddenly you have a 1.5 point favorite, underdog, and for Philadelphia, who's going to win this game outright. And you know what? You could tie this to another bet, but I mean, Philadelphia is known for taking the ball away, and why not Ryan Tannehill over one interception at minus 150, and maybe add that to something else? I don't know, but minus 50 is a lot of juice, but. I just see at least one interception from Tannehill because I got to believe that Tennessee's going to be chasing and the Philadelphia secondary is going to be licking their chops, and there's good value in a takeaway there. Washington, who's on the upswing, and the Giants, who are not. The Washington Commanders are 2.5 point favorites coming into New York. Now, with New York, it looks like they're fading back into what we know or thought about Daniel Jones, and we know about the New York Giants. They had a blip there where they look fantastic, but I get the 2.5 point favorite is based on Washington being on the right side of being hot versus the Giants. It looks like their stock is down, but I get drawn in every time. I can't, when I see a low over-under or I see a low passing total, I get suckered in every time. So I'll tell you what, I'm going to go with this. I'll let you decide if you want to, decide on your own to go with it. But I'm going to take Daniel Jones over 196.5. I mean, he's hit this mark, 4 of the last 6 games, I believe. So it's not like he's not hitting at least 200 yards. He struggles to get there. He got over the 200-yard mark against Dallas, but that was a backdoor, cheap time, 15-yard completion, whatever it was. I don't care how you get there, as long as you get there. As long as the money goes in my pocket, I don't give a damn where it came from, how it got there. So minus 110, 196.5. I like the over. I was looking for Barkley to be for rushing and receiving yards. That did not display on Bet365 at the moment. It might be maybe closer to game time. But I'd take Barkley at 69.5. I mean, at minus 110 rushing yards. I think the Giants got to get back to basics. I think they got to put the ball in Barkley's hands, and I think he'll break a few open. And we're talking Washington here. They got a solid D, but they're not. They're just hot right now, and that could fold at any time. So Daniel Jones over 196.5 and Barkley over 69.5. Sorry, Jones is passing, Barkley is rushing. Now here's my game of the day here. This is my game of the day. I'm going to tell you this game of the day right now, and this is going to be exciting. This is one of those where you turn off the red zone at 4 o'clock and you sit down and you start watching. You watch one game, you're gonna be doing this game, and that is Miami taking on the San Francisco 49ers. Miami's +4. I like. I think Miami's in a good spot right now. I think, Miami coming into this game is lighting it up. They're putting points on the board. Not saying that they're keeping points off the board. And this is why I like the 46.5. I think this is where, Miami and San Francisco start trading points. I know San Francisco is going to try to put pressure on the quarterback, which they do a great job of. But I think Tua is going to get the ball out of his hands quick enough to the Tyreek Hills of the world and the Jalen Waddles of the world, where I don't think he has to, push the ball 40 yards in the air. I think he dump it off the hill. I think he gets his yards here. 90.5. I know it's against San Francisco, but I put my money on Hill. He's one of the best of all time. He is the go-to guy. He's the best at what he does when you put the ball in his hands, and simply the best. Like, are the guys that pay you off. So I'm going to stick with that. I'm going to say that Hill's going to go over 90.5 yards. I'm going to say that Waddle, I would also take 60.5 yards. 67.5 yards, that is, over at minus 110. Both are minus 110, by the way. And I'm going to take the Dolphins at plus 4 and the game over. And I got some interesting picks as well that I think are very good value. And this is more one-sided on the Dolphins. And maybe I'm off kilter here, but team props. If you go to Bet365 and you go to this game, Miami, San Francisco, and select team props, you can look at team points, 3-way total. And I'm going to take Miami over 20 at minus 105. You tell me that Miami can't put up 20-plus points on the 49ers. Why not? All right? They're going to do it. I think that's maybe the play of the day right there. Miami over 20 points. Also, good value. Not the play of the day necessarily, but I think real good value. Team touchdowns, 3-way total, over 2, plus 140. So if the Dolphins hit 3 or more touchdowns, you're going to get paid out at plus 140. I like that. I like the over 20 more, but I like the plus 140 on the 3 touchdowns or more. So I like that. That's a solid one for me. So I'm going with that. But again, that is the game of the day to me, and that is where you turn Red Zone off and watch the game from front to end. And there's going to be some exciting plays there. Now, just some other thoughts on some of the other games. We have Seattle, and we have the LA Rams. The LA Rams are lost. I don't know what they are now. They're just kind of going through the motions of the season, putting guys in to see what they got. Stafford's not playing. Kupp's not playing. Seattle's a 7-point favorite heading into LA. Opportunity to tease them down to minus 1. So Seattle, I was disappointed. They kind of screwed me over on a teaser with the Raiders letting. Now this just, you get a flashback, like memory, and I had a teaser 1 where Seattle lost to the Raiders. Jacobs with a 70 some odd yard rushing touchdown in overtime. And that's not even the frustrating part, because Seattle had the ball late in the game in the fourth quarter to get in a field goal position. They got the ball back in overtime after a missed field goal attempt at midfield. They had to punt the ball away. You just knew that teaser was going to break your heart, and they did. But I think they get back on track here. The Rams have nothing to offer. And put it down to minus 1 on a teaser, and I think you can get paid off. Okay? Interesting matchup. 2 teams here, the LA Chargers, which are still hanging in there. Big win last week in Arizona. And Vegas Raiders seem, even though their season is done, that they're getting on a bit of a run and probably playing the way we expected from the get-go of the season. The Raiders are a minus 1-point favorite. I don't care. Josh Jacobs at passing and receiving yards is 121.5 at minus 115. I'm going to take the over on that one. He is on fire right now. They throw him the rock. He is going to get every opportunity to do what he does best, and that is get yards. So 121.5 is good value. Don't let the amount here scare you off, because he's going to get the rock. Devontae Adams and Josh Jacobs are the 2 players that Carr is going to rely on big time. And also, what was my Carr here? I had 30. Oh, yeah, that's right. I'm looking at longest pass in this game as well, and the way Carr's playing right now, and he finds Devontae Adams. And I think he's going to hit a pass over 37.5 yards at minus 115. I think there's value there. Okay, so that's enough of the 4 o'clock games. And actually, I'm going to backtrack a second here. And so here's my teaser play of the day. And that is, again, for those who are listening for a first time and unfamiliar with a teaser. The teaser I'm talking about is I go through FanDuel, or you can do it through Bet365 or whatever betting service you have. You can select 4 games. You select the over-under, or you can select the spread. And you're allowed 6 points to go in your favor. So, as an example, the Cleveland Browns, one of my selections, would be a 7-point favorite on Houston, but because they're one of my 4, on the teaser. I get 6 points toward their total, so Cleveland would now be a -1, would have to win by 2 or more instead of 8 or more for that to be considered a win. And on the other side of that, I would also take Baltimore at 2.5. So they just need to win by a field goal or more. Seattle -1 point. And Minnesota down to 38.5. Minnesota to New York Jets, because I think I like the over at the 44.5. And I think it's a no-brainer to take the 38.5. So that's a payoff teaser. Hopefully that does what I intended to do. Sunday nighter is kind of a bore. You're going to bet it because it's a Sunday nighter. You wouldn't have touched it if it was in the 1 o'clock window, most likely. Or you wouldn't have touched it in the 4 o'clock window. But, the Colts suck. The Colts don't know what they're doing. The coach is obviously out to lunch, like with what we've seen them work the clock at the end of that Colts-Steelers game. Matt Ryan's going to take 85. Think about Matt Ryan against the Cowboys' pressure defense. There's going to be 8 sacks in this game. He's not going to get the ball off. And even like the Cowboys at 10.5 points, they might run up the score on a Sunday nighter. They're putting up points. I like the 10.5, to be very honest with you. I like the 44.5. I like the Colts probably to get a crap touchdown, but I like the Cowboys to put like 40 points in the Colts. So those are the 2 plays I like on that. Moving on to the Monday night, there's not much here. I don't trust either of these teams. You have Tampa Bay as a 3.5 point favorite over the New Orleans Saints. Saints always play the Tampa Bay Buccaneers tough. Tampa Bay squeaked out a win in New Orleans earlier in the year. Tampa Bay just coming off a loss against Cleveland. They're going to limp to win this division. They probably win this game just because somebody has to. But I would probably wait until, and maybe stay away from the game until maybe halftime. Let's say New Orleans is slightly ahead in this game like they were in game 1. The betting lines were really favorable to Tampa Bay that I didn't take, and I kind of mentioned on this podcast. They were down by like a point or like a field goal or 2 points, really small total in that first game at half, and they came back to squeak one out. So I'd wait till halftime, take a chance that New Orleans is slightly up, and then hammer Tampa Bay, which is still a risk because they're really struggling right now. But Fournette looks like he might be back, which he hasn't really done much, to be honest, but he gives another weapon for Tom Brady. So that's the play I'd make there, to be very honest with you. So not much of a play on the Monday night. That might be maybe just focus on your day of World Cup action. Well, that is the Overrated Experience. Again, for our audience, this is a fun, non-commitment to, I'm not telling you to go out and do anything you shouldn't do. We all want to be safe out there as far as what we're wagering. We don't want to take on more than we can chew. And again, this is for fun. And if you have the extra funds, get out there and and keep it responsible and make your own decisions. These are only my opinions and my opinions only that I would do, and I might change my opinions. Who knows? Like as the information becomes available, leading on to kickoff, whether sport we're talking about. Trying to think of anything else we need to cover here. Again, I'm hoping to have a special overrated experience related to the knockout stage of the World Cup and get some insight from people beyond myself, and that's Johnny Charts. We'll see if that plays out. So look out for that. But in the meantime, this is the Overrated Experience. I'll end it there, and I'll say over and out.